Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and this is the summary for the day of 745 to 746 for the 9 to the 10th of March. And we're going to start off with the Frontline Changes report. And the first one, it's over at Terny in the Kreminna Front. So this is Kreminna, and over at Terny, this is Terny, there is some frontline changes. Due to geolocation, we can establish that the Russians have taken more grounds over in this forest region in the eastern part of Terny. And another geolocation also confirms that the Russians are indeed over here as per the Russian claims, and this actually invalidated the Ukrainian claim that was reaching to this space. So together this shows the Russians have at least made decent progress in this direction in the eastern part of Terny. So another frontline change is over at the Bakhmut Front at Ivanivske. So you can see this is Bakhmut city, and at the Ivanivske there is two geolocation as well, and this actually invalidates Ukrainian claims. Previously Ukrainian claims is like this, that the Russians are not in this northern part of Ivanivske. With this geolocation, at least we can establish that the Russians are definitely in this area here, and this doesn't look like anything, so don't think too much. And so this at least confirms that the Russians have taken good positions or good part of the northern half of Ivanivske. So we just need a bit more to establish whether the Russians have the other side. So that's all for the Ivanivske region. And over at the Avdiivka Front, where the Avdiivka offensive is ongoing, there is also geolocation. This geolocation is of Russian forces getting hit by Ukrainian FPV drones right in the middle of Orlivka, or rather northern part of Orlivka, confirming Russian presence in that region. This invalidates Ukrainian claims. Ukrainian was claiming that the front line is like this, while the Russian claims is the entire of Orlivka. But this FPV drone attack at least confirmed that the Russians have at least this area here. So which means that the Russians are at the very least we have confirmed that they have taken 2/3, no sorry, not 2/3, this is like way more than 2/3, this is like 7/10 of the town of Orlivka. So that's all for the Orlivka. And then there's other frontline changes is over at the Donetsk Front, over at Shevchenko. So this is Donetsk city, and Shevchenko is over here. So Shevchenko in the northwestern part of Shevchenko, Russian forces is geolocated along this tree line. This is actually never been seen before, which means that the Russian attacks in these recent days from the 7th to the 9th seems to have some kind of result. This is so which means the Russian forces have actually attacked in this direction in the northwestern part of Shevchenko and managed to capture some grounds around here. So they are just off the main road, still some distance away. The distance from the main road is around 2 kilometers. And there's one last frontline change. So it's over at Chervone. So Chervone is on the Zaporizhzhia Front. Over at the Chervone region, there is another geolocation. This geolocation is along where we already understood where the front line is. This is actually a geolocation of the front line, which means that the Russians is attacking around this area here. So this actually confirmed that at least the Russians are in this area here. However, this is not a firm frontline change because this is a frontline geolocation, not established geolocation. So which means that this gray zone will continue. There will be this overlap until we can have a certainty, because according to the information of the geolocation, this is actually a front line. They are actually attacking. So that's all for the frontline changes. And if you are still watching, do press the like button. Press the subscribe button if you are not subscribed, because it's very, very important, because this is the very least you can do to help to support the channel. And so we go on to the strategic and tactical reporting, and we go on to the southern front. In the southern front, there is attack being reported against Ukrainian bridgeheads. It's not clear which one they're talking about. Usually I would just assume it's going to be Krinky. So So that's all for the fighting. In terms of certain geolocations, there is multiple Russian attacks. There is a Lancet attack against ships of the Ukrainian Navy over here at this elevator. Not elevator, elevatorne. So there is this some kind of a pier region here, and it was hit by 2 different Lancets. So this is pretty far away from the front line, but this you can literally see that Russians are actually hunting for Ukrainian equipments all over the place, and their drones are flying everywhere, and this is rather frightening to be fighting on the Ukrainian side. And so over at this along the Kherson front, there is also other artillery strikes, and at Dnipropetrovsk, based on the footage I saw, it feels like it's laser guided or something. It seems super accurate. It's just one shot and it was on target. And there was a helicopter guided missile attack over at Dnipropetrovsk. There's also another strike over at Dachi. This is also a very, very accurate strike. There is a surveillance drone noticing movement. There's soldiers in one of the houses, and then came a very, very accurate shelling or missile strike. Most likely it's an artillery strike, and it was one hit and an entire house was destroyed. North of Kherson, there is a Lancet strike hitting Ukrainian artillery systems. So all in all, you can see that the Russians have attacked 5 different directions purely based on the geolocated attacks. Not all attacks are geolocated, just mind you. So this is just a taste of the entire situation over the front line over the past 2 days. And that's all from the Kherson front. Over at the Zaporizhzhia front, so this is Zaporizhzhia city, and this is the Zaporizhzhia front. Over the Zaporizhzhia front, there is fighting reported across the front line. The Russians continue to try to stretch the Ukrainian forces. There is attack reported at Stepove, in the Zerebianki, attacks at Novoporovska, northwest of Verbove, western part of Verbove, and Robotine. Ukrainian forces are on the counter over at Robotine, and they seemingly have the western part of Robotine, but I don't think they have firm control. So the situation over at Robotine continues to be in flux. And further east, there is some geolocation. There's a geolocation of a helicopter guided missile strike on the Ivanivske, and of course just now the front line changed over at Chervone, showing that there was some actions at Chervone. The last attack was reported on the 3rd of March, so this position might be captured during the 3rd of March. So which then attracted some shelling and attacks. So anyway, this is the latest report that we have, and that's all from the Zaporizhzhia front. Over at the Donetsk front, so this is Donetsk city, and so this is the Donetsk front. At the Donetsk front, there is multiple reports of Russian attacks, and the Russians are very, very, very active, particularly in the Velika Novosilka sector over here. The Russians are attacking over at Levatne, south of Novodarivka, at the Prione region, at Rifnopil, at Staromayoske, and Uruzaine. And if you look like this, it looks like a lot of activities. I'm not sure if this is just a diversion, or is this going to lead to some very major offensive over at this sector over here in the Velika Novosilka sector. The Russians are also attacking at Shevchenko, which leads to some kind of frontline change. There is some fire mission at Voleda, attack towards Vodian. There is continued fighting at the Battle of Novomihailivka, at the Battle of Georgievka, as well as Battle of Krasnohorivka. Ukrainian forces are counter-attacking over at Novomihailivka. They are attacking Volodymyrivka as well. And so this is the entire strategic situation over at the Donetsk front. And so the situation, like I mentioned, looks like the Russians are really spreading out their attacks again. And so just for those that did not watch previous SITREPs, it looks like they are trying to stretch the Ukrainian logistics again and make the Ukrainians guess where the main attack is going to come. So, and if they don't defend all the spots, Russian breakthrough, then that breakthrough is going to become the main attack. So so it's going to be a very difficult choice for the Ukrainians. And other than that, there's multiple geolocations. Basically, it's just usually Lancet attacks over in the area of Velika Novosilka. Another airstrikes reported at Rivnopil. At Konstantinivka, there is a FPV attack. And so the Russians are constantly, looking for targets as well over this front line. So very painful for the Ukrainians. And not just that, there is airstrikes constantly hitting Krasnohorivka, because this is where one of the main push is coming from the south towards Krasnohorivka. So the Battle of Krasnohorivka attracted massive airstrikes, particularly against all these industrial buildings where the Ukrainians can use it as a castle or fortress. And based on the experience that the Russians had at Avdiivka, this kind of airstrike is extremely effective against discouraging the Ukrainians from entrenching at these high-rise buildings. So if you go to Avdiivka, you would remember this citadel region, and all these high-rise building was targets of the Russian Air Force, the TOS-1As, artillery strike, Grets. So all kind of long-range tactical weapons, and this entire area was bombed to the point where the Ukrainians don't even dare to use it as a fortress. So we are probably seeing the exact same situation unfolding over at Krasnohorivka, with the Russians conducting all these massive strikes against all these high-rise buildings. So that's all from the Donetsk Front. Over at the Avdiivka Front, far off on the western part of Pokrovsk, there was a Iskander strike. And this Iskander strike hit a convoy of surface-to-air missile systems. And so this massive explosion, as you can see on the footage, is a secondary explosion from the explosion of the fuel and the explosive on the missiles. And there is some contradiction in terms of the reports. So based on the initial video footage and based on the original channel that is reporting about this attack, they claim that this convoy is actually S-300s. So, however, Ryba, the pro-Russian source, based on the wreckage, they claim that this is not S-300. They say that this is actually HIMARS. So, not HIMARS, sorry. This is actually Patriot missiles. So, they use some pictures of the Patriots that is from Germany, or from my memory. So and a vehicle, the truck that is carrying the missile, they say that the shape of this cabin looks the same as the one that is carrying a Patriot missile. So yeah, there is some contradiction there, but more importantly for me, I don't care, it's a Patriot or S-300. For me, they are both very effective surface-to-air missile system. Is that yet another surface-to-air missile system was destroyed, further making the case where the Russians have a lot of Sukhoi 34 getting shot down, as claimed by the Ukrainian Air Force, seems to be have its accuracy. And this also reconfirms my hypothesis that the Ukrainians have pulled a lot of air defense systems to the eastern Ukraine to help out with the defense. And the Russians, knowing that the increase of surface-to-air missile system by the Ukrainian side in the eastern Ukraine, have been actively hunting for them. And this is probably as a result the destruction of this another system. It's interesting, this surface-to-air missile system is not deployed. So they are in a convoy sitting beside the tree line at Sergeyevka. So I believe this might be a lucky find from the Russians' drones. So over at the Avdiivka Front, the Russian forces, according to the Russian sources, according to Ryba said that the Ukrainians are actually on the counterattack, and in fact the Ukrainians even taken some grounds back. I'm not sure. To be honest, it's starting to get a bit confusing, because seems like Ryba is a bit like always a 2 days backwards. But anyway, the situation did not really resulted in any kind of frontline changes, despite their claims, because they don't even want to show the map. So I can't really even reference that. The Russians are attacking towards Novokalinove, Bedaichi, at Orlivka, Tonenke, as well as Pervomaiske and Nevelske. Ukrainian forces are counter-attacking at Pervomaiske, towards Chervone, at Tonenke, Orlivka, Badaichi, and towards Stepove. And as you can see, the Ukrainian arrows are more and more concentrated. There is this massive push by the Ukrainians. So probably this is why the Russian side is talking about a Ukrainian counteroffensive, and even taken some ground. But I think the ground that they're talking about is like not much. It's really, really small. So which they don't even bother to show a map of what was it. No, it could be just all within the gray zone. So we'll definitely look at this. The turn of the tide has been turned, so we have the turn of the tide, the turn of the tide of the turn of the tide. So we will continue to wait and see how long the Ukrainians can continue to keep up with this counteroffensive over at the Avdiivka Front. Definitely they are holding the line, at the very least that's holding the line. The lines are not moving, so the Ukrainians are doing as best as they could, and the Russians are definitely still holding on, and 100% the Russians have absolute advantage against the Ukrainians. So I do not sure why some of you viewers are coping so hard on the pro-Russian side. It's like, why can't the enemy, the side that you don't support, do well? There's still a war, right? So anyway, military summary geolocator FPV drone attack over at Umanske against armored vehicles. As I mentioned, the fighting is still very fierce in this region. The Ukrainians are putting a lot of eggs into this basket, and they are very determined to not let the Russians break through. As I mentioned before, this area here, this area in the Avdiivka Front, this is actually like a weak spot that the Russians can actually pour through. So the Ukrainians are definitely trying to plug the hole. And I want to also highlight there's a reason for all these attacks, these counterattacks. This is to allow the Ukrainians to establish more time to reinforce the line in the second line. So this is actually around the first line of defense after the fall of Avdiivka city. So after this line fall, they need to fall back onto the second line. And the second line seems to be very underprepared, according to Ukrainian sources. I'm talking about like Ukrainian, like Deep State UA was talking about it. So all these counterattacks over in these regions here are probably to give time for the combat engineers to do what they can in the rear. So, which is why, I believe that this is the main purpose of the counterattack. I don't believe the Ukrainians are able to entirely capture the 3 villages and then push the Russian back into Avdiivka city. I think that's a bit too much to ask for. Clearly they can, but then they won't be able to hold it for long as well. So the Russians will just fight back and then take back the 3 and cause the battle to return back to the 3 villages. So anyway, we will continue to monitor and see how this progress. And moving on, over the New York Front, the Ukrainian forces are still active in this region here, with fighting reported in Druzhba, near Druzhba, as well as Sumy. Russian counterattack at Mayorsk. So this is the battle is now raging around this area here. I don't think the Russians are going to attack into Torets. So this is just going to be skirmishes. And moving into the Bakhmut Front, this is Bakhmut city. In the southern flank of the Bakhmut Front, the Russian forces continue their usual attack at Klishchiivka, Andriivka, and Kudyumivka. So nothing new to report over here. Over in the northern flank, the Russians are continuing to attack Budanivka, and there seems to be a refresh attack towards Chasiv. According to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, they mentioned there is fighting east of Chasiv. And based on the information that I read, like Ryba, they're talking about pushing enemy defense near Budanivka. There seems to be some kind of a refresh attempt from the Russians to be pushing towards Chasiv over here. And so we will continue to monitor and see if this is some kind of a very, very serious push. Definitely geolocations are showing a lot of artillery airstrike and Lancet drone strike actions in this area here. I didn't plan in all the geolocations because it's kind of pointless. They are not near the front line, so it doesn't add much. And other than that, the front line at Ivanivske have not changed. Other than these two geolocations that confirm that which invalidates the Ukrainian claims, there is However, artillery strike on Ukrainian position on the western part of Ivanivske, confirming Ukrainian presence remains at this area here. And I did mention in yesterday's conclusion why the Russians will not capture the entire of Ivanivske. This is actually a poison chalice. Taking Ivanivske will result in more Russian deaths because of the strategic or the geolocation the geography of Ivanivske, because the Ukrainians have strong advantage if the Russians go all the way and capture Ivanivske, and this will allow the Ukrainians to attack them in multiple directions, which will just cause defending to be really hard to do. The Russians holding this line is actually more advantageous for the Russians, and they can hold this line forever and the Ukrainians can do nothing about it. So that's all for the Bakhmut Front. We move into Siversk Front. Over at the Siversk Front, the Russian forces are attacking in the Orlivka in the Luhansk region, overcome Kupyansk, Chervone, as well as Orlivka. Rocket artillery was hitting Orlivka. This is geolocated in the video footage. There is some fighting reported at Zaporizhzhia, but I'm not sure where, probably in the Serebrenske forestry. And there is multiple geolocation of Ukrainian forces getting hit by rocket artillery systems. So this is the current strategic situation. The Russians are making certain push or certain attacks in the Siversk region to also stretch the Ukrainian forces. As I mentioned, this is now the grand strategy. Tentatively, at this moment, the Russians are trying to stretch the Ukrainian forces. They are attacking across all the front line, but I don't believe that any of this attack is actually a real push. I think the real push is still at Avdiivka, but if the Ukrainians slack in any of this front line and let the Russians break through in these small attacks, then the Russians, of course, will double down on it. So they are not going to waste it, I believe. So anyway, the Kreminna Front, as I mentioned, the Russians are attacking in Terny, as well as Orlivka, with Terny showing some progress, which I mentioned in the frontline changes report. There are some geolocation of Lancet attacks as well over in the rear positions at Zaporizhzhia. So this proved Ukrainian presence in Zaporizhzhia. So the war is still ongoing, definitely in this area here. And moving on from Kreminna, there's further action. I should zoom up a bit. I didn't see that. And one more attack is over at Nevsky. So this the one at Nevsky is something interesting because this is new. We haven't seen an attack at Nevsky for a long time. The last attack was reported in November. So that's how long the Russians attacked Nevsky. How long they have not attacked Nevsky. So this attack, interesting. And that's all for Kreminna Front. Svatove Front went quiet again. So that's all from Svatove. And we move on into the Kupyansk Front. This is Kupyansk city, and this is the Kupyansk Front. At the Kupyansk Front, the Russian forces are still attacking at Avdiivka. This has been ongoing for some time after a one-day pause on the 8th. On the 9th, there was attack. But on the 10th, there was no reports of attack. So this could be very probing in nature. And in Sinkivka, the Russians are not attacking. The Ukrainians are the one attacking right now. They are attacking at Sinkivka as well as the Liman Lake region. So this is the situation over at the Kupyansk Front. And over at the border regions, there is a lot of actions. Particularly the most important was some kind of attempted attack to cross the border over at Velika Pesarivka. So it seems like the Ukrainians tried to attack in this direction into Russia, but I don't think they managed to cross the border at all. It was spotted and it didn't work out. But this is very interesting. It could be some of these special forces on the Ukrainian side that is trying to break through. It could be foreign fighters formations. And other than that, we have multiple geolocations of airstrike. So there's an airstrike over here. So let me zoom out a bit. Maybe it's better. So there are airstrikes at Milove over here. And for this one, this is actually RPV drone strike just north of Voschansk. Of course, we have an attack over the Velika Pesarivka. They're attacking this direction. This is a counter artillery strike. And I think this is also this is shelling. So this is the current strategic situation over in the Kharkiv and Sumy region. So it's getting a bit hot, but ultimately this is a 2-day SITREP, so it could look like a lot of things, but it's across 2 days. So this is interesting. This attack is interesting. I definitely want to see if there's more information, and if the Ukrainians actually really want to push through, or this is just some harassing attack. So that's all from the border region, and that's it. This is the summary for the day of 745 to 746 for the 9th to the 10th of March. Do press the like button, subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next update.